Call the planning and zoning meeting to order. Everybody please stand for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Marcus Major.
Yes.
Here. Jaden Bailey is absent.
Correct.
Ellen Stork.
Here.
William Gutchock.
Here.
Jeff Spink.
Here.
Doug Keisted.
Here.
Robert Owens is absent too. Do you know? You heard from him?
I didn't hear from Mr. Owens.
He is absent now. Steve Skeet.
Here.
William Wolf Smith.
Here.
And I'm present, Steve Rosenthal. So we have, 8 members present?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion on last month's minutes?
We'll move. Second.
Wolf moved, and who seconded?
Marcus.
A motion on the floor to second, and with a second to approve, so that would be November's minutes as printed. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Marcus Major.
Yes.
Ellen Stork.
Yes.
William Gutchock.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Keisted.
Yes.
Steve Skeet.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Secretary's report.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This evening we have one item on the consent agenda. We do have one item that's being remanded to you from the Board of County Commissioners. You may recall hearing a rezoning request last month. The Board of County Commissioners took that up a couple of months ago, and they wished to remand it back to the Planning Commission. Staff had recommended denial. You all had recommended denial based upon it not matching the comprehensive plan. The Board of County Commissioners would like for you to re-examine that recommendation. So that will be the first
Give us any
item.
direction on that?
We will talk a little bit about it when we open it up,
Okay.
but just that's an unusual thing. We don't typically have items remanded from the Board of County Commissioners, so I just wanted to give you a heads up. That will be the very first case
Okay.
that we hear tonight. There does not need to be a public hearing on that. The public hearing has already occurred. It's just simply to reconsider, and you're not under any requirement to change your recommendation by any stretch of the imagination. We also have a few plats on the regular agenda. That's for various reasons. A couple of them, they're requesting exceptions. One of them, staff is recommending a roadway be extended through, and I think the applicant is, or not being extended through, being protected for a future connection. So we want you all to be able to weigh in on that. Then we have a couple of rezonings, and then just our annual comprehensive plan review. We do have one item on the Board of Zoning Appeals, so we will need 7 of you to stick around for that. Other than that, I don't have anything.
Okay. All right. Declarations. Anybody have any declarations on any of the issues tonight? Not hearing. I have approval of the agenda. Remember, one item is on the consent agenda. By approving the agenda, it's automatically approved. Do I have a motion on the agenda?
So move. Second. Marcus.
I have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Marcus Major.
Yes.
Alan Stork.
Yes.
William Gutchock.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Keisted.
Yes.
Steve Skeet.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Okay, our first item is Leavenworth County Planning Commissioners will now reconsider case number DEV 21-131, a rezoning request from R5 to R2.5 zoning district as outlined in the posted agenda. Staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is, in fact, case DEV 22-131, the Harris rezone, which you heard last month. For expediency, I'll read the only addition that was made to the staff report. And it was that on November 30th, the Board of County Commissioners remanded the case back to the Planning Commission with a vote of 5-0 for further review because the applicants are seeking to divide. The applicants seeking to divide the property are doing so to transfer a portion of their land to their family members. That is the staff report. I stand open for any additional questions.
Are there any questions or comments, Commissioners?
Possibly so. Have we taken a look at the actual appraisal for the property as it exists today?
No, sir, that is not something we typically do.
Typically do. Okay.
With rezones.
There is a lot of floodplain on that, right? So
There is.
it really should be a bigger tract, not smaller tracts, right?
The aerial does not do justice to the full tract. The tract is split by the floodplain.
Yeah.
I don't know if you are aware, but the appraiser's office does work with the GIS department to split properties when the majority of they can make up the majority of a parcel within the floodplain to help with taxing purposes and whatnot. So the parcel is larger, but they were looking to rezone 2.5 acres.
Okay, so it doesn't hit the comprehensive plan, and there's a lot of flood zone on
Correct.
But there is room to build a second well without getting into the floodplain.
it. Well, at this time, the floodplain doesn't get any bigger. When I looked at it, it looks like some of it has just recently become more floodplain, a good portion of it.
We were mapped in, I said in the last couple of years, but we were remapped in 2015.
Right.
So, and yeah, I don't know for sure what the progression was, but yes, you are certainly correct that things come into and go out of the floodplain whenever we get remapped.
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm not understanding the property is 2.51 acres, according to the staff report, and you're asking to subdivide that?
They're asking to rezone 2.51 acres out of the larger parcel.
The parcel's bigger than that.
How big is the parcel?
I forgot. Me too.
Because it wasn't on the staff report how big the total parcel was, so it sounded like you're trying to subdivide a 2.5.
Right. So the total parcel is, well, I want to say it's over 40 acres. However, as Joshua stated, the 2.5 acres, they're asking to rezone only that portion, the 2.5 acres that they wish to build on. So they're not asking to rezone the entire parcel. The request was for 2.51 acres out of this larger parcel, which is kind of it's a little confusing. But yes, they are not requesting to rezone the entire parcel, only the 2.51 acres.
And is that 2.5 acres not any of that in the floodplain?
Let's just pull it up and let's take a look.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we please bring up that flood zone map that had the rezone area?
Because on one of the other maps in this, that one right there, that would almost indicate that the whole habitable area was 2.5. Or again, I haven't seen the whole.
I think when I was looking at the appraisal report on that particular property, there was about 34 acres worth of ground.
All around?
All the way around.
Okay.
Roughly figuring what that is for that peninsula that's outside of the floodplain, it looks like about between 12 and 15 acres.
Okay.
And there is a farmstead on it that's 3.5 acres currently.
And it's zoned for RR5, so why wouldn't, if there's approximately 13 acres there, why wouldn't they just go with a RR5?
So there is an option for them to be able to do that. where the existing home is located, I want to make sure I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth here, so be really careful. Where the existing home is located, if they were to keep it at the 5 acres and have to divide off 300 feet of road frontage as opposed to 200 feet of road frontage, I believe there's going to be a shared access and some wonky stuff happening, for lack of a more professional term. So the applicants were attempting to take off just the minimum 2.5 acres there on the very northern portion of it, along with the minimum amount of road frontage, is what they are attempting to do. You are correct that this property certainly has challenges given the floodplain and with the placement of the existing home.
So, but they could divide it into 2 5-acre tracts and still build on it?
It is possible for them to divide off a 5-acre tract of land. Yes, that is possible.
And they can build on it?
And they could build on it.
I don't see no reason to rezone if they can do it. But if they couldn't do it, I would give it some more thought, but.
Well, I mean, because it didn't meet factor 2, that the other residential properties in the area were R5.
Right.
So,
And our comprehensive plan doesn't show that to be anything but 2.5. I mean, 5.
5. Correct.
Right. So
That's
that's
my
what
understanding.
it was
But we've
based
been
on.
subdividing 2.5 for
Yeah.
several months. That's the standard that the
Yeah.
county commissioners want in the county. So it's not an unusual request at all. And he's given 2.5 acres apparently to a grandson. Maybe it doesn't work in his.
If he gives 5 acres to a grandson.
Well, maybe
I
he
mean,
could. Maybe he could
and
give
the
him
rest
whole
of it's
40, but
floodplain
that's up to
anyway.
him.
So,
It's him to gift.
You know, if he couldn't, then I would say let's give it a little better look. But
So, and where is the 2.51 acre plot in relation to this? Is it
Yellow box.
is it north of the road?
Yellow
so
box.
it's kind of be right in the middle.
Okay.
So that is outside of the flood area.
Yes,
Yes.
it's up, yeah.
2.5
Oh yeah,
acres.
yeah. Well, it had to be.
So he's not asking for anything really out of the ordinary from what we've been doing.
Except for we've been doing it where it met our comprehensive plan. And this one doesn't.
No,
That's the
we've been rezoning from 5 or 10 acres down to 2.5 acres. We've been doing it all over the county.
Well, where it meets our comprehensive plan, we do. Not
Yeah.
where it doesn't fit our comprehensive plan, we don't. As a rule.
Yeah.
Only where it fits our comprehensive plan do we do that. Normally, anyway. Well, I'll entertain a motion, or do we even need to make a motion if we don't change it?
I think we should probably, we should take a motion, and you are not required to change your recommendation. If someone wants to make a motion to,
It's pretty obvious that they wouldn't have sent it back to us if they didn't want it to pass. If they weren't going to agree to let
They
them
could
do
have
that.
passed it on their own, couldn't
they
they?
can. It's really best if the Board of County Commissioners is going to disagree with, or is going to change. I shouldn't say change your recommendation. That's not what they're doing. If they are going to override your recommendation, it is best that they send it back to you all. I know we haven't done that very much in the past. That really should be the practice, and that's what they have done. Again, you're not required to change your recommendation.
I thought if they want to change it, they can change it.
Well, so they voted 5-1. Is that what you're saying? They voted
5-0.
5-0
To send it back to you.
to send it back to us to review. And that whole area out there in that Leavenworth County area, that whole area is zoned R 5.0. The whole area is zoned 5.0 or larger. Can't go smaller. But in this case, they'd like for us to review, to take it back to give this exception to a 2.5. So then we're going to entertain those throughout then? Is that what we're going to go back and rezone the entire Leavenworth County to make it all 2.5?
Well, I certainly wouldn't recommend that. As Joshua stated, the board, they did indicate that since this was supposed to be for a family split, that they would like for you to reconsider it. Again,
For
we
family
do have.
split.
Well,
We do
family
have a
split
conver-
For how long? I mean, it's
That
never-
is absolutely,
family split.
you are not
The
correct,
Zoning is forever.
or not incorrect, sorry, you are correct.
Till we change.
Yes, you made your recommendation based upon the golden factors, and one of those was the comprehensive plan and the surrounding zoning.
Hey, I'll entertain a motion.
I don't know what to do on that.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we approve the 2.5 acre split. And I do believe that it does go along with the golden rules and the golden rule factors in as much as we are doing this on a regular basis. And I don't see where he's really asking for anything way out of line or unusual.
Do I have a second?
I'll second. And I second that in support in that we have done that. We have done that. I appeared in front of this board asking for that not to happen. And we have done that. We have taken it down for family reasons, down to 2.5 for family reasons to build when it's in an RR 5.0. So that's my stance.
We have a motion on the floor with a second to approve case number, where are we at? DEV 22-131, zoning request from RR5 to RR 2.5 zoning district. Any
Mr.
further
Chairman,
discussion?
I'm so sorry, I hate to interrupt you. I think we should amend the motion to state that the Planning Commission is recommending to modify their recommendation from denial to approval of this. I think that would be the best way to go about this, since
Okay.
I agree to that.
Okay.
Second. Yep. We're
All right.
modifying.
Is there any further discussion?
I think I might add just one comment. In reviewing some of the other properties in the area that appear to be 2.5 acres, there is kind of that element that we have got properties that kind of fit that same criteria in defense of what you gentlemen have been saying.
All right, a roll call vote. Marcus Major.
Yes.
Alan Stork.
Yes.
William Gutschuk.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Teisted.
Yes.
Steve Skeet.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case number DEV 22-134 and 135, preliminary final plat of Goldbrick Ridge as outlined in the posted agenda. This is not a public hearing item. Staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. Before you is a request for a preliminary and final plat for the Goldbeck Ridge addition to the county. It will be a 3-lot subdivision on a property located at 20957 Linwood Road. As you can see on the screen, this property abuts both K32 and Golden Road. Currently, there is a barn on the property. They have also applied for a single-family house and are in the process of building it. The barn and the house will remain with Lot 1 of the proposed subdivision, including the access off of K32, as you can see there. The other 2 lots on this subdivision will have to access off of Golden Road. KDOT in their memo or email had indicated that no further accesses will be granted off K32 in this location. But they have that access from Golden Road, so they are perfectly okay there. The reason this is on the regular agenda is they are requesting exceptions for lots 1, 2, and 3 from the lot depth to lot width requirement. As you can see, this is an irregularly shaped lot as it currently stands. There's really no feasible way that they can subdivide this property and meet that lot depth to lot width requirement. Otherwise, it meets all the other standards of the subdivision regulations, so staff is generally in support of this application with the exceptions.
I have one question. In notes, Evergy, Boone Henson from Evergy mentioned the easement for the power line. And I see that it was on the plat. There's something, because they made the comment, if they move that, it's going to be at the owner's expense.
Correct.
Does there need to be something on the plat to do that? Because I did not see it written on the plat.
I have it as a condition of approval. I didn't feel that it needed to be on the face of the plat, specifying specifically if they want to move it. Obviously, if the future owner of that lot wants to move it, they need to contact Evergy and they can work out the details at that point.
Okay.
But at this time, nobody is proposing moving the existing power line that's going through proposed lot 3.
All right, I just like to make sure that a buyer would, somebody buys that lot, they would know if they want to move it, that it would be at their cost. So they wouldn't necessarily know it until they contact Evergy, right?
Right, which, I mean, I don't think a property owner is just going to go out and move a utility line willy-nilly. I think they would be in contact with Evergy from
Well, I know, but they've already purchased a lot. Now they're finding out that they'll have to pay to move that line. That's what I'm
Sure.
talking about.
I mean, have we added a plat notation like that before?
No, it's not really come up before. We certainly can. If you would like to make that a condition, we can add it, or we can add it as a restriction to the face of the plat.
I guess we can discuss that as we go on. Okay, any other questions of the? Okay, does the applicant wish to speak?
Good evening, Commission. Joe Herring Surveying, 315 North Fifth Street. Staff covered it very well. The track itself is probably 4 times or 5 times as wide as it is deep. So in splitting it into smaller tracks, we're reducing the bad situation and making it a little better. I was trying to use a commissioner's other words, but I figured I better not in this case. As for the easement that you brought up and the power line that would have to be removed at their expense, that's why we place the easements on the face of the plat. So when they go to purchase this, they will see that easement there. They are notified at that time. And just, if they wish to move it, much like the water line easement on lot 1, it goes right through the lot 2. If they want to move the water line, it's at their expense. But easements are all over plats all the time. They're there to make the buyer aware that there is a easement and a structure in that line that they cannot build or, on that. And if they want to move it, then yes, you're aware of it. Now you got to move it. You got to pay for it. So that's it.
Any questions of the applicant?
Thanks. Thank you.
Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
Are there any comments or questions, commissioners, or I'll entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve case number DEV 22-134-/135 as approved by or recommended by the staff and in accordance with the Golden Rules.
Second.
I'm going to give it to Steve. I heard him first. I have a motion on the floor to second to approve case number DEB 22-134 and 135, preliminary and final plat for Goldbeck Ridge subdivision. Is there any further discussion? None. Roll call vote. Marcus Major.
Yes.
Alan Stork.
Yes.
Stephen Dutchuk.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Teisted.
Yes.
Steve Ski.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. The Board of County Commissioners were considered as item no earlier than December 28th, 2022 meeting. The commission agenda is posted on the Leavenworth County website and is available for public viewing. County Planning Commission will now hear case number DEV 22-138 and 139 preliminary and final plat for Mann's Corner as outlined in posted agenda. This is not a public hearing item. Staff report.
All right. Before you, as mentioned, is DEV 22-138 and 139. This is a request for a preliminary and final plat for Mann's Corner on the property located at 16350 New Lawrence Drive. The proposed plat is a subdivision that will consist of 5 lots. As you can see from the aerial, there is an existing house with some existing accessory structures already on the property. Those structures will remain with the proposed lot number 2. There are also a few ponds located on this property. One pond will be split between two properties. I believe it's lots 4 and lot 5. On the face of the plat, the applicant did include a separate agreement for maintenance for that proposed water feature. As you know, we typically don't like to see that. However, that is a pretty large pond. There's really no way to get around subdividing out unless you make a much larger lot. In addition, lots 3 and 4 will be having a shared access. The frontage along lot 3 is eaten up by another pond. So really the only feasible area for them to be able to access that lot would be from a shared entrance and still meet spacing requirements. The reason this is before you on the regular agenda is due to the layout of New Lawrence Drive. Lot 2, again, will not meet the lot depth to lot width requirement. However, based off of that, how New Lawrence Drive is wrapped around this property, there's really not another good feasible way to create that lot like that. So generally staff is in support. The rest of the lots are in conformance with our subdivision and zoning regulations. So staff does recommend approval. If you have any other questions, let me know.
Any questions?
I guess I don't understand why lot 2 doesn't meet width and depth and lot 1 does.
Okay, yeah, so if this was like a true corner lot, meaning there was a New Lawrence Drive and another roadway, potentially we could say that lot 2 meets the lot depth to lot width requirement because there's 2 frontages, so there's 2 sides. However, in this case, New Lawrence Drive is one roadway. It wraps around, essentially creating 2 frontages, but we have to treat it like one. So there's no way, it's creating an irregular lot, and there's really no way that you can make it meet without probably subdividing it into much smaller lots, which of course you can't do out here in this zoning district. So that's why staff says it does not meet lot width to lot depth, whereas lot 1 does, because it only has that 200 plus foot of frontage.
Yeah, I saw it had like 215 feet. What's the requirement for frontage in order to have an entrance or an entrance from and to New Lawrence Road?
Sure. I believe New Lawrence Road is a collector, so it meets the frontage requirements for RR 2.5, which is 200 feet. So it checks off that box. And then on a collector road, you have to have at least a 300 feet of spacing separation between driveways, which it will meet that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Okay. Does the applicant wish to speak? Okay. Is there any additional information to be presented?
Just to reiterate what Amy said, Commissioners, we are dotting an I and crossing a T. This is just a unique situation. This is a technicality, but because it is an exception, it needs to be approved by the law. But there's no reason to not approve it.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve DEV 22, 138, and 139.
Second. Okay, we have a motion on the floor with a second to approve case number DEV 22, 138, and 139, the preliminary and final plan for Mann's Corner, outlined in the posted agenda. Is there any further discussion?
I have one question. It's just, this is RR 2.5, and there's a 4.5, a 5, a 4, a 4.3, and a 2 point something lot. Now, are they going to come back at some other point in time and want to subdivide those other lots, requiring another approval?
So we don't have any indication that that's what they plan to do. Commissioner Tysett, to your point, certainly if someone were to purchase 2 of those lots and later on wanted to replat them and it could meet the regulations, that is an option that they have. But at this time, it's not been told to staff that that's a plan at all.
Don't have to worry about another entrance.
Yeah.
Well, then yes, all of those things, but I mean,
Well, we don't know what they're going to do in the future. We can't.
right,
Yeah, we can't predict that anyway.
just worrying about now.
And the road frontage requirement would probably,
Right.
they'd have to buy at least 2, and then it would be, yeah, you probably could do it if you bought 2, but it'd have to be at least 2 lots that they'd split off. Okay, is there any further discussion? Now we have a roll call vote. Marcus Major,
Yes.
Jaden Bailey, oh, he's gone still. He's still gone, isn't he? Alan Stewart,
Yes.
William Gutschall,
Yes.
Jeff Speen,
Yes.
Doug Tysted,
Yes.
Steve Skeet,
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than December 28th, 2022 meeting. The commission agenda is posted on the Leavenworth County website and is available for viewing. Leavenworth County Commissioner will now consider case number DV 22-150-150, preliminary plat of Kansas Red Tail Ridge Number 2 as outlined in the posted agenda. This is not a public hearing item. Staff report.
Commissioners, this lot will probably look very familiar to you. You recently reviewed Kansas Red Tail Ridge Number 1 plat. It was those 3 lots you see to the north there, and this lot that was platted as a much larger lot with the intention to come back and develop it at a later stage. We are at that later stage. So this is just a preliminary plat. The property in question is located off Kansas Avenue. It is zoned rural residential 2.5. The applicant is proposing to subdivide this or replat this lot into 17 separate parcels, ranging in size from just above 2.5 to, 3.3 to 5.69 acres in size. So it's a little bit larger than the 2.5, but they do all meet the standards of our zoning and subdivision regulations. They are proposing to extend 163rd Street, which you can see just to the north there, down into this property, and it will end in a cul-de-sac north of I-70. The reason we are bringing this before you on the regular agenda is based off of previous comments that this board or commission has said. There was a hope that developments that are coming in next to large acre tracts that are undivided or unsubdivided would include future roadway easements so that future development on those unsubdivided tracts would have roadway access and connectivity in the future. It is a standard in our regulations. The original submittal does not include a future roadway easement, and we're not saying that they would have to develop that roadway at this time, but staff is recommending to you that a future roadway easement be connected from the proposed 163rd Street extension to the east specifically, because as you can see, there is a rather large lot that is unsubdivided to the east of this. Otherwise, like I said, this meets the zoning and subdivision regulations. There are a few comments that are outstanding in regards to the stormwater drainage report, which are reflected here in their conditions that they would obviously have to provide a stormwater drainage report with their final plat. But staff, I don't think I have any other comments on this, so if you have questions, please let me know.
Any questions or comments?
Staff recommends approval.
Staff recommends approval with the conditions that have been provided.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy that you included that in there. We missed that on some of them, and I think that's going to be a problem down the road for some places, and it's a great requirement. Hope we do that consistently from now on. Anyway, does anybody else have any questions of staff?
There was a lot of discussion about water, fire hydrants, and so forth. A 4-inch line up on whatever it is, Evans Road or
Kansas.
Avenue. Are there any concerns with that?
Our policy is we require fire hydrants if the water districts say that they have enough capacity to add fire hydrants at the time of development. We will not require them to upgrade further downline in order to provide fire hydrants, which Suburban Water had indicated that would need to happen for them to be able to support fire hydrants if this development is developed at the capacity or the density that they are proposing.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
And these will all be on septic,
Correct.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions of staff? Does the applicant wish to speak? Bring up a notepad this time.
Not bad. Good evening again. Joe Herring, Herring Surveying, 315 North 5th. The applicant is aware, the developer is aware of the request for the road to be protected for the future. He would wish not to do that, just for the fact that it does hinder 2 lots and potentially takes away a cul-de-sac lot into a future roadway. The tract to the east does have access to a road, so it's not landlocked. Past couple lots that have had interior tracts or subdivisions that have had interior roads, I believe Child's Addition was talked about, putting the road to the west. It didn't go through. There was no protection. And Emerald Estates, which was more recent, had 2 cul-de-sacs, and neither one has a protection to the large tract to the west or the large tract to the south. So it's not been a practice of this county to do so. He does not wish to put that on the plat, but is aware that if you guys require it, he will place a protection through there for that roadway going east. The developer and the water districts are in conversations on whether or not they will require fire hydrants and upgrade the line or just continue with the 4-inch line. So that's between them and the developer and the water district. So that is all I have.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
Are there any questions or comments, commissioners?
Could you pull up your provisions that you had on your on the staff study?
The proposed conditions?
Yes, the proposed conditions, please. I'm sorry I didn't have the right terminology. Because that is germane to what he just spoke to. There we go.
Those are the 7 requirements there.
Right. And number 6 is the one that the developer is objecting to. So I think if we make a motion, we should decide that one way or the other.
Well, if we prove it as with the proposed conditions, it's there. It's already in there, so we don't
Okay.
have to do anything. You only have to do some if you want to remove it. But boy, that's poor planning if you do that. So we've been caught with this before by not doing that.
good we got it in there.
Yeah, I think it's great that we got it in there.
Well, the developer did note that that property has access from the east.
I couldn't see it myself.
There is an existing driveway. That being said, commissioners, you know, we
I know.
we don't have just a ton of opportunities in the county to make sure that we're protecting through streets for local subdivision roadways, but this is a time when you absolutely do. It would be foolish to believe that lot 1.08 will not develop at some point in time. And it might be 5 years down the road, it might be 15 years down the road, but you certainly don't want to handicap the ability to put a subdivision roadway through there that could potentially alleviate traffic off of Kansas Avenue, which is your higher volume roadway. Anytime you can get traffic off of a higher volume roadway, that's the route you want to take.
Okay, and any other questions to staff? Not I'll entertain a motion.
Right. No, I know.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve case number DEV-22-150 as presented and approved by the staff in accordance with the Golden Rule factors.
Second.
There you are. And Wolf, you seconded. Have a motion on the floor with a second to approve case number DEV 22-150, preliminary plat of Kansas Red Trail Ridge number 2, is outlined in the posted agenda with staff recommendations. There was 7 of them, right? 1 through 7?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any further discussion? I have a roll call vote. Marcus Major.
Yes.
Alan Stork.
Yes.
William Gutchalk.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Tysted.
Yes.
Steve Skeet.
Yes.
And Will Smith.
Yes.
Carries 7-0. Not going to go for the county commissioners until it's a final plat, correct?
Correct?
All right. Right along. Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case number DEV 22-146, a rezoning request for R5 to R2.5 zone district is outlined in the posted agenda. It does require a public hearing, public comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, this is case number DEV 22-146. This is a request to rezone the property located at 19266 Leavenworth Road from rural residential 5 to rural residential 2.5. The future land use map indicates this area to be 3 units per acre. However, this is near one of those areas we've talked about recently. You have Stranger Creek, obviously, that is right there, and while the floodplain does not extend all the way into this property, you do still have considerable floodway and floodplain area, and as we just discussed, that is prone to changing as development comes along. And so 3 units per acre at this time, really, I wouldn't say is very feasible. Additionally, you don't have sanitary sewer anywhere near this vicinity. The Board of County Commissioners has been supportive of approving rezonings when the requested zoning district is less dense and it's not feasible to immediately extend services than what the future land use map is calling for. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of this. I do want to note on the access street under the property information, I stated that it was 203rd Street is the access. That's incorrect. It is Leavenworth Road, so we'll need to change that. But other than that, I don't have anything. This is a public hearing item. I will answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any questions? Okay. Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address. It's time to begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Good evening, Joe Herring, Herring Surveying, 315 North Fifth Street. staff covered this very well. It is a 3-unit per acre in the comp plan, which doesn't make a lot of sense in this area. And I don't believe any of the neighbors would want to see 3 units per acre go in next to them out there. We did hear one a couple months ago, very similar to this, just north on the Cavalich property. It had more floodplain, and it did go through. On this property, there has been some discussion with the property owner. They have moved some dirt. They started to look at where they want to build. They haven't put anything in the ground yet. They're looking at the extension of the water line to get water to their site. So they are doing their due diligence. But I did have a question of staff that kind of doesn't pertain solely to this, because it was brought up in discussion about accessory dwelling units, the ability to put that on another lot. If it's an accessory dwelling unit, do they have to build the code? Okay. So either structure built on this would have to be built to the current county codes. Okay. It was a thought that I needed answered. So it seemed like the dwelling, that's the key word? Okay. All right. So other than that, they just want to rezone to the 2.5 acres.
Okay. Any questions, applicant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. In favor of this request? You have 3 minutes.
I'm against.
Okay, well, we're there now, so
Okay.
no one came up. So now we're talking about people who are in opposition to this request. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Great. I'm Carl Hughes. I live on the adjoining property, 19366. I think there should be a written document in there that you all have. If not, I have some copies. We purchased land in 95 to build our house in 2001, and the expectation, of course, was that these were all 10-acre plots for single-family dwellings. Since then, there has been some development in there. You'll notice in there that I have, Gary Tanking had purchased 10 acres along 195th Street there. He, in turn, took 2 of those lots, the original house and the one on the corner, and he put those in for 2.5. Both of those pieces of ground have an excess of 300 feet road frontage. In addition to that, they have line of sight going up and down that road. Very clear. The houses that were there were put in, sit back from the road, have no problems putting in their lateral systems there. Particularly the piece of property that is under review right now currently sits on a steep hill, and I've got some pictures in there showing that. Access on that would only be potentially at the top because the ground slopes from the southeast down to the southwest and then to the north. There's a ravine that runs from the center of that current property right now up through the north. So any structure has to be basically put right on the road relatively, and then you're going to have to go ahead and get the septic system that's in there that is required. The pieces and parts of that, when you kind of take those together, it's not a good building lot by any means. But I know you don't review that kind of stuff. But, we've all, up and down the road there, we've put hundreds of thousands of dollars into our land right there. And, what his intention of as far as building a metal building there to live in does not support anything up and down that road. That may or may not be anything of your review. So, subject to your questions, that's all I have right now.
Well, we're just doing rezoning now. The plat, when it comes, it would deal with some of the other things you mentioned.
As I understand, though, once this happens, I don't have a dog in that fight. So
it would still have to meet our subdivision requirements for the plat like that. As for if there's no restrictions on building in the subdivision, then there's no nothing that can be done on that, in that respect. So I'm sure these are all just 10-acre tracts and not a subdivision where it has codes or anything else like that.
No, the only thing that we had to sign, it probably was through the agent that was selling it, was the fact that we weren't supposed to put any trailers on it or anything. We had to sign a document, but I know that's not legally binding by anything.
Well, that could be. It's on there. Was that when you bought the property?
That's when we had, when we had to sign. We were actually in Heidelberg, Germany when we bought this. So, we were stationed over there, and so we did it all through our agent back here, John Barnes.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, if there was something in writing that was that, everybody would have got that in writing.
Yeah.
And,
Warner, did you get anything like that? Look at it. I know. I mean, it's been over 20 years. Yeah. So.
Well, actually, I don't think trailer homes per se are even allowed in the county unless they have certain regulations that they have to be right.
Okay, yeah. So the county cannot prohibit manufactured homes. We do have regulations for a minimum requirement that they must meet, which that is a legal thing to do. The county cannot outright prohibit them. And I have no idea, if he is within a subdivision and there were codes, covenants, and restrictions placed upon the subdivision plat, with that, so then that is perfectly legal. The subdivider can make a restriction that says only certain types of houses, certain square footages and such. I don't know if that's the case or not.
But
this particular parcel is not part of the subdivision, to my knowledge.
Well, but single wide mobile homes aren't allowed, right?
Correct. So the minimum manufactured home is effectively a double wide trailer that has to, or I shouldn't say trailer, a double wide.
Right.
That must be on a permanent foundation.
Right. That's right. So just a regular trailer home couldn't go in there.
Sure.
Any other questions of
So is the question, I guess, I mean, first, let me just say thank you for taking the time to do all this. We encourage people to come to our meetings. So that's a good thing, right? Secondly, is the concern the location, or is the concern splitting out the property to 2.5 acres, or is the concern all of the? Is it concern the location of splitting that out?
It's all of the above.
And then lastly is I take it's like I guess a barnuminium is what the plan is, like a metal shop with living quarters.
That's as I understand, because I had a conversation. I think I put that record of conversation in there that I had last week with Charlie Cooper. Reference this that's what the plan was.
Well, unless there's a subdivision code that can't stop the barnuminium that I know of anyway, and but you also have to remember they can split this down to 3 units per acre and not come before us and just have that approved.
I fully understand what the limitations are, and after listening to your earlier discussion here on how your hands are tied on a certain amount of this, I would just like to say, though, as far as when you're developing Leavenworth County, there are certain things that are going to make, that are going to allow it to benefit from building. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here and everything, so I'm not trying to tell you all how to do your job and everything, but next to me, this is not a good piece of ground to be trying to develop.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? State your name and address, please.
Warner Bartels, 19410 Leavenworth Road, Tonganoxie. So I own the property 2 driveways to the west. pretty much mirror what Carl has indicated. The owner, Mr. Cooper, of the lot that wants to divide it, the intent to put a metal building on a slab, metal roof, Butler-style building, and put people in this. I understand per him it's going to be a very small structure, something to the effect of 30 by 30. Just doesn't really meet the current neighborhood. Don't really understand what Leavenworth County's rules are in terms of barn dominiums and minimum square footage requirements. But it is not a double wide. It's not going to be on a foundation. It is going to be a Butler building on a slab, and that's what our primary concern is.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any questions or comments, commissioners? There's still building requirements for barn dominiums, correct?
Yes, correct. So as you all know, we adopted building codes, I want to say 18 months ago, 20 months ago, something like that. We adopted building codes. We adopted the 2006 IRC. It is required to meet that standard. It can be done in a barn dominium. It can be done. As I tell you very often, with enough money, you can do just about anything. But yes, in barn dominiums, they are allowed in Leavenworth County. They have been allowed for quite some time. To Mr. Herring's point earlier, this property is also eligible for an accessory dwelling unit. As you all know, accessory dwelling units are second homes located on the property. There are additional restrictions along with an accessory dwelling unit, but this property is eligible for that.
Any other questions of staff or any other comments or questions?
I do have one. Do we have any idea what the traffic count is on this road?
I don't. That section of Leavenworth Road, I don't know what that section is. No, I don't. Sorry.
Okay. But it meets this. The access to this would meet the line of sight. It would be on top of the hill. Is that correct?
So, for rezonings, I don't want to tell you that we absolutely don't look at that. However, as long as it's when the plat, if there is a plat, comes in, that is really truly considered. The rezoning is obviously an important piece of the puzzle, certainly. They have enough road frontage, theoretically, that they would be able to meet the minimum road frontage requirements. There are options for shared driveways, which we have throughout the county when there are line of sight issues. We do have, as you know, requirements for driveway spacing. And we have requirements for line of sight. At the time that a permit for a driveway is presented to our office, that's when the Public Works Department goes out and they do all of the work that they do to make sure that the driveway location is the best available location.
So in our plan for the future land, what is the plan? Is the pink color the 3 houses per acre?
Yes.
For this entire area?
Yes.
That's in the pink?
Yes.
I guess for the city of Basehor?
Tongi?
Tongi? Okay. All right.
And that includes Stranger Creek lots.
Yeah, that's, there's definitely a good chunk of that, which we will talk about in just a little bit.
Yeah, but it's quite a ways from Tongi.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say this piece of property is out in the middle of nowhere, but it's kind of out in the middle.
Chances are it would be 3 per acre is going to be very...
At this time, the chances of it being 3 units per acre are fairly slim, but...
Very slim.
Yeah. So what?
Are there any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion.
Well, this is just for a rezone. It's not for a
It's just a
plan.
rezone, yeah. Not a plat.
Plat's a whole different animal.
Yeah,
Yes.
just a rezone.
I move that we approve with a rezone of application DUV 22-146.
I'll second it.
Motion on the floor with a second to approve case number DEV 22-146, rezoning request from R5 to R2.5 zoning district as outlined in the posted agenda. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, the problem is addressed. I mean, yes, I agree, but the issue is we're going to start seeing a lot of this with the neighborhoods, the 10-acre neighborhoods, the nice neighborhoods that a lot of these people have bought and invested in, and the land rezoning map. I mean, I wasn't part of the committee or the team that did that, but those are some of the things that we're going to face a lot now, is that we are taking these nice neighborhoods and saying barndominiums and 3 homes per acre lot is what we're really doing. So hopefully we can come back and readdress this, because this is going to affect all of us, not just the people in this room tonight. It's going to
We're
affect all
having
of us.
our review of the comprehensive plan tonight, but I don't think that's addressed in that. So.
Only a little bit.
What?
A little bit.
A little bit. We shall see.
That's all I have, Commissioner.
We still have a motion on the floor with the second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Marcus Major,
Yes.
Alan Stork,
Yes.
William Gutschuk,
Yes.
Jeff Spink,
Yes.
Doug Teisted,
Yes.
Steve Skeet,
Yes.
Bill Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier on January 4th, 2023 meeting. The County Commission agenda is posted on the Leavenworth County website and is available for public viewing. Kansas law allows a petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 days of the date of this hearing. Additional information on the filing protest petition can be obtained in the Office of Planning and Zoning. Okay. Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV 22-157, rezone from R5 to R2.5 zoning district as outlined in posted agenda. Does require public hearing. Public comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report.
This is case DEV 22-157. This is a rezone for a large piece of property, 250 acres roughly, at the corner of Wood End and 198th Street. This case, regarding the character of the neighborhood, we looked at the neighborhood, determined that due to its nature or due to its location near I-70 and especially 206th Street, there's kind of a gradient of types of development around the property. Obviously, to the west of the property, there are significantly smaller lots than to the east. The zoning of the nearby properties are exclusively RR5. The suitability of the property for uses, the property is suitable for rural residences and agricultural uses. The applicant's agent has indicated that they wish to subdivide this property in the future. This is more estate planning, so it would be appropriate for that. The removal of restrictions going from RR5 to RR2.5 will not likely to be cause negative externalities or impacts on the surrounding properties. The property is vacant. This rezoning does not negatively impact economic development, public health, safety, or welfare. And then this does conform with the comprehensive plan, which I'll show you here. The future land use map does support the property in question is outlined in gray. It's a little bit weird color, but we had some interesting colors to work with. So it is supported going from RR5 to RR2.5 by the future land use map and the rest of the comprehensive plan, which does support developments of this nature, this location in the county. That is all I have. I stand open for questions.
What's the pink?
3 units per acre. The
Okay.
weird purple to the far western border is the County Road 1 project area.
Right.
On character of the neighborhood, you've got met and not met.
Again, you have kind of a sliding gradient. Over on the west side of the property, you've got parcels under 10 acres. To the eastern portion of the property, you have Stranger Creek, which then lends itself to much larger parcels. There are the majority of the 14 homes in the surrounding. When considering a neighborhood, we default to the surrounding 1,000-foot notification area. So within that notification area, those parcels are about 14 homes. The majority of those homes are in between 206th Street and the western property line of Wood End Road. So it both meets and does not meet, depending on which side of the property you want to look at. So it is one of those things, and it is quite a large piece of property. So it does span some area.
Any questions of staff? Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
I'm shocked.
Okay, Joe Herring, Herring Surveying, 315 North 5th Street. Staff once again covered it. Great. It meets the comp plan, 2.5 acres. The owner has talked with water districts and knows that, the cost and what it will take to bring water to the property to get to the 2.5 acres. Also looked at, the benefits of improving the road versus, dust abatement and other options that are available to do that. The parcels, when you first pull off onto Wood End Road, I think the corner one's less than an acre. The next one may be 2 acres. It might be 2.5 acres, but they're not all 5 acres. They're not all the 5 acres only. So they're already at smaller tracts already. So it does match the character of the neighborhood if you're looking at it from that way. One of the unique situations on this, it is so large. It's 240 acres, 250 actually. The northeast corner of it's, controlled by floodplain. That little portion up top, it's probably not going to get developed ever. It's, floodplain will control that. But directly east and northeast, some companies have bought that floodplain out and have mitigated it back to wetlands. So there is a lot of area out there that is protected from development already without the county's intervention in that. So this is probably the last portion of ground that can be developed to this level before you get to Stranger Creek. So I think it meets the comp plan and looking for approval. Thank you.
Any questions of the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now hear from individuals present to wishing to speak in favor of this request. In favor. We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition. Please state your name and address. You have 3 minutes, sir.
John J. Martin, 15705 Mohawk Circle, Mohawk Street, Overland Park, Kansas. I own 120 acres to the south of the proposed development. I'm in opposition of it for safety reasons with the road. It's a small gravel road, narrow, with a narrow bridge, with a terrible line of sight, with a large hill. And we talked a few times about the the few houses in the corner. Most of that's just raw farmland, so it doesn't fit with any of that. But what I'm looking at is if it's 250 acres and you're using 2.5 acres per lot, you can see 100 houses there on a basically a farmed road. It's a gravel road. The frontage on 206th Street is roughly 3,900 feet. So you'd be putting 19 driveways across that road, and with a terrible line of sight, and it's not a good fit for everything. And it's also going to affect other areas. I estimate these houses are probably going to be 500,000. People aren't putting in chickens out there. They're going to go to work every day. They're going to hit I-70, so it's also going to affect Hemphill Road to get to I-70. It'll have a major effect on that. That's another 2 miles of gravel road. There's a lot of safety concerns. I wonder, does anyone look at that before we approve?
Well, they'll look at it on the plat.
Okay. And then if they're talking about such a large property, why isn't it an R40 or R5? I don't know why we need to go from 5 to 2.5 to double the density of homes.
But they're requesting and it meets our comprehensive plan, so
Yes.
that's what's designed for that area is 2.5 acres.
But it's zone 5 now, so
Correct.
what's the difference then between zoning and a comprehensive plan?
Well, comprehensive plan is where the county wants to go to, and they picked that area to go down to 2.5 acre tracts. So our comp plan, if you go on the website, the comprehensive plan is on the website. You can see the areas where they outline for different zoning.
And does infrastructure support that in roads and how narrow and line of sight and safety?
Line of sight will be addressed on the plat because they won't allow the line of sight is something they look at on plats. First thing, until there is a plat, there's nothing we can really do. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Commissioners, you are certainly always welcome to consider the extenuating factors of a rezoning. You are correct that this meets the comprehensive plan of 2.5 acres. That's absolutely correct. However, there are other circumstances. It is a gravel roadway. That's certainly something to take into account. You all also are aware that at the time, if development comes, and it will eventually, we know that things like roadway condition and fire hydrants and water lines and such are addressed at that time. That's not something that we typically address at Leavenworth County during the rezoning process. It is something that gets addressed during the planning process. To his point about potentially having 19 driveways along that stretch of roadway, I would say that is unlikely. I would imagine the engineering, if a plat were to come through that was looking to fully develop this parcel, there would be a lot of pressure to take as many of those lots off of a county roadway and put them onto a local interior roadway, because that's just the best planning. That's certainly the safest. You want to limit the number of access points on county roadways. Again, those are things that you can take into account now. You can also take into account that, of course, the golden factors and such, and whether or not you think this is the best fit. The comprehensive plan is a guiding document. It's not the Bible. It is not 100% correct 100% of the time. That's why you're here.
Seems like it'd be a better fit on a major road versus let's call it farm road. But.
Mr. Chairman, and this is more to the staff than to you, sir. If we overlay the transportation plan, is this in any transportation plan upgrade area? Because I noticed 163rd, which is north and east of here, is.
Yeah, that's a great question. We are very close to having an official transportation plan. We don't currently have that, but that will be an additional document that staff will have at their disposal for these sorts of things. And yeah, that'll be a great thing to look at.
We don't have it yet. Got it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing in opposition?
Dave Otter, 23150 147th Street, Leavenworth. And it's less specifically with this one, but I do have concerns as a member of the county that you will not take infrastructure into account when we're looking at rezoning for a couple of reasons. One, I think it gives a false sense of security to the developers that this is going to go through. Unless at some point you're putting wording in there that they're going to be responsible for infrastructure improvement. I, as a county member and taxpayer, don't want to upgrade that road. You know who should upgrade that road? The developer should upgrade that road. The same thing I had concerns with fire protection. As the son of a lifelong volunteer fireman and my brother who's a fireman in Baltimore, deciding if we should put fire hydrants into a subdivision based on current capacity doesn't make sense. It's either needed for safety or it's not needed for safety. If it's needed for safety, the developer should put that water line in for the fire hydrants, not the water district, not the people who are currently paying for water there. It should be the developer. If the numbers work out, it's no different than buying a rental. If the numbers work, the developer will put it in. If the numbers don't work, the developer won't put it in. It should not be on the county taxpayers to pay for infrastructure improvements. That's how you get a business park in Leavenworth that doesn't fill because we're putting in infrastructure so that we can put a subdivision in there. Okay? Make the developers do it. If you kick this can down the road, infrastructure should be the first thing you look at when it comes to rezoning. It's not an afterthought for the plat. By then it's too late, and then you get kicked back by the county commissioners because they've got a friend that wants to build. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Is there any information to be presented?
No, sir.
I failed to mention that the staff recommendation, as you saw in the packet, was for approval because of the comprehensive plan. So that was the only thing. Yes, approved.
Right. The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. I can't argue what the last gentleman said because I 100% agree with that. And roads, we used to make the developer approve roads to the subdivisions.
Yeah, so let's be clear here. In my time at the county, never once have we put extending water lines on the county taxpayer. That has always been the developer, and it will continue to be the developer. The county has taken an approach of, in private development, if the developer wishes to have fire hydrants and water lines need to be upgraded, then that is up to the developer to make that decision on whether or not they want to offer that service. That's the Board of County Commissioners' stance on that. Additionally, you are correct, Commissioner. We used to have roadway improvements up to developments. We have not had a subdivision developed on a gravel road at this density in my time here. And again, this is a proposed density. I won't say for 1 second that it won't be required that a developer wouldn't be required to upgrade the roadway. Again, in my time at the county, to my knowledge, improving roadways for subdivisions has never been the case. It has always been at the expense of the developer, and certainly the roadway within the subdivision is at the expense of the developer. They are required to meet approved the standards that the county is using. They have to be signed off on as being up to standard before the county will take them over. I can give you a name of several plats that we're currently awaiting for that sort of approval to come into place because we do not budge on it. It has to be built to our specified standards before we will take it over. And again, that is at the cost of the developer.
I know two roads close to where I live that the developer had to build the road, and we're talking about a lot smaller subdivisions than that would be. And the road, one road, was probably 3/4 of a mile, and another one, I ended up doing the whole mile, but I don't think they paid for the whole mile. I think they only paid for half of it. So it has been done.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's absolutely been done. And typically, these sorts of subdivision proposals come in, and they're on existing paved roadways.
Right.
We have had, a few of them that have been on gravel roadways. Again, not in the recent past, but you are absolutely correct that developers have been required to make off-site improvements. Right. And if that is necessary, as you all know, we have an engineering firm that consults for us. They do excellent work, and they make their recommendations very clear, and they don't budge on those. If it's necessary for the roadway to be improved in order to meet line of sight issues, to meet safety issues, in order to meet capacity, that will be their recommendation. And it will be staff's recommendation.
Well, they did it before, and I know developers can do it again, but they're not going to do it if we're going to give them a free pass, that's for sure. And that, because I know those did it, and I don't think that one that I think was probably 22 lots maybe, and they did 3/4 of a mile, 2 county standards, hard surface roads. So, Hollingsworth Road, if any of you.
I know Hollingsworth Road.
Hollingsworth Road, so they did about 3/4 of a mile plus the road into the subdivision they did too. So, and just past the subdivision, so it was, and it's a nice road. And another one on 163rd, a few more homes in there on that one, but that also was developer putting in the hard surface road on 163rd and the interior roads into the subdivision. Also,
And developers and landowners also pay a pretty hefty road improvement fee for all the frontage on that.
yeah, but we're not doing the road improvement fees anymore. Or is it still on the building permits?
We do not have specific road improvement fees. That is a policy that has gone away. We do have building permit fees.
Yeah.
I mean, I was the last one we got.
I don't know about that, Commissioner Stewart. I don't have a list in front of me here, so I can't answer that question.
The building permit sticks pretty hard.
So
It's pretty steep.
So what we're doing here is setting up for future development, correct?
Potentially. It's my understanding, based upon conversations with Joe, that at this current time, and know that we don't just look at this current time. At the current time, though, they're proposing to split off 2.5 acres. I believe there's a son or a grandson who wants to build on here. They want for financing purposes, they want the least amount of land. However, that being said, yes, if this is rezoned, they can turn around on December 5th and submit a subdivision plat application for 100 lots or whatever it may be. They can certainly do that if it's rezoned. You are absolutely correct.
You have to remember, not everybody that's coming in for rezoning is doing it to just divide it right away. They want to get it rezoned while they can, and this zoning in case it changes again.
Well, I mean, it's currently RR5.
Yeah.
Correct? And because the development plan, the future use plan, shows 2.5, is that why we're moving this to 2.5 now, without taking any of the other factors, such as the transportation infrastructure, into account?
Yeah, sure. So I'll give just a little bit of a dig at Mr. Herring. The Board of County Commissioners has stated pretty clearly that they would like for us to very heavily weigh the comprehensive plan, and when it matches the comprehensive plan, to recommend approval of that. And that, again, it doesn't mean we don't take anything else into consideration. It does not mean that. However, we have been given direction, and so Mr. Herring has, if he has a client and they own property in an area like this, and says, well, yeah, you should look at rezoning this until maybe the board's policy changes. That's just being a good businessman, right? The board's policy could change tomorrow. It could change a year from now. We don't know. But yes, currently the board's policy is, when it matches the comprehensive plan, for staff to recommend approval. Again, that doesn't mean that you all can't consider extenuating circumstances. You certainly can. And should.
Because I'd say table this for right now until some of these other issues come into clearer focus, such as what the county is looking at for infrastructure.
Well, we do have a regional transportation plan that should be finalized in the near-ish future. I do not know exactly when that is going to be finalized. David can talk on this probably a little bit more clearly than I can. I don't think we can just table it indefinitely. You would have to table it to a date specific, and we can't kick that can just terribly far down the road because the property owner does have the right to apply for a rezoning. You, obviously, as a board, have the opportunity, if you so choose, to recommend denial of that rezoning. But to just say, well, you're going to wait until we get these other things in place, I'm not certain we can do
It really
that.
just gives the landowner more flexibility on what he may do with that land in the future. It doesn't mean that he has to divide it in 2.5 acres. He
And
can
I
sell
understand
10
that, but the
lots.
density that we're talking about putting in there and looking at especially the transportation infrastructure, I tend to agree with some of the comments that have been brought up that it's a problem. And if the county is not have a plan to upgrade anything in that area, then we would probably have to put conditions on the developers that they do something.
If they were coming in and asking for a preliminary or a preliminary and final plat, then we should consider that. Right at this point, they're only asking us to rezone it.
Yeah.
They're not asking us to let them develop it. They're not asking us for money to improve the roads. They're just saying we would like to have the opportunity to go with what our long-range plan wants for this area.
Yeah. When a plat comes in, we can make the requirement for them to do the roads and improve the roads, and I can't believe that the county commissioners wouldn't go along with that as much as they want the roads improved. And they've done it before, and I don't think the developers liked it, but they did it, and the county got some pretty good roads done by the developers at very little or no cost to the county. So I can't believe the county commissioners would be against that, and we definitely could make that a requirement. And we should make it a requirement. I mean, developers, if they want to develop, they should do it right and make sure they do it in the right spot and build the roads that need to be that will handle the traffic that his development causes.
When you start developing and building roads into a development, the county requires an engineering study be done on that road before you ever move dirt. The developer has to build a minimum to that engineering standard.
New guy. Just want to make certain that we're taking everything into consideration.
Well, that's good. I mean, I want you. That's what you're here to do. That's exactly right. Are there any other questions or comments, or I'll entertain a motion?
I got one question, Commissioner. Are we going to have to review every piece of property now because it's RR 50 versus RR 2.5? Are we going to have different types of landowners all the time now coming in wanting to zone theirs to 2.52? I mean, is that the future? Is that what we're about to what we're doing tonight?
Ask Joe.
Is that what we're doing tonight? We could wind up doing for thousands of property owners out there now.
Yeah, I'm sure we are.
That's why you have to run the comprehensive plan.
That wasn't part of my volunteer pay.
Right.
But I do see. I mean, what we're doing right now by just authorizing a rezone. I mean, every single landowner is going to have to come in here or want to do that because that's what the future plan is, and so we're going to have to entertain every single.
Commissioner Major has a very valid has a very valid point. The commission can rezone large tracts of property at a time. What you're hearing are individual petitions for rezoning from individual landowners. At some point, the commission could, at its volition or request, consider rezoning larger tracts of property. It's a somewhat cumbersome process, but no less cumbersome or no more cumbersome than handling 1,000 individual requests. So in short, the answer is there is a solution to the problem I think you foresee.
Still a problem, though.
The solution is really in our comprehensive long-range plan.
Well, the comprehensive plan does not affect rezoning. The comprehensive plan is more or less the guide map. Rezoning requires a very specific process, public hearings, input from individual property owners, input from affected property owners. But it is done and can be done.
That's all I have.
Still entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the rezone request for DV
22-157.
22-157.
Second?
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Who said it?
Jeff.
Jeff. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve case number DEV 22-157, rezoning from RR 2.5, RR5 to RR 2.5 zoning district as outlined in the posted agenda. Is there any further discussion? Have a roll call vote. Marcus Major.
Yes.
Alan Stork.
Yes.
William Gutchuck.
Yes.
Jeff Speen.
Yes.
Doug Tysted.
Yes.
Steve Skeet.
Yes.
Wolf Smith.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than January 4th, 2023 meeting. The commission agenda is posted on the Leavenworth County website and is available for public viewing. Kansas law allows a petition protesting decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 calendar days of the date of this hearing. Additional information on filing a protest petition can be obtained from the Office of Planning and Zoning. Case number DEV 22-129, consideration of the 2023 Comprehensive Plan Annual Review, including amendments to the plan. Does require public hearing. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, this is case number DEV 22-129. This is for the 2023 annual review of the comprehensive plan. As you know, the county comprehensive plan was adopted in 2020. State statute requires that we annually review said comprehensive plan, and that review should include any amendments that staff wishes or staff recommends, any modifications that. Sorry, you're all just looking out the door, so I don't know what to do right now. Any modifications that you all or the Board of County Commissioners
Close the door.
recommends. We did send this out for comment to our economic development, to Council on Aging, to Public Works, to all of the entities that are task holders within our comprehensive plan. I don't know, hopefully you've all had an opportunity to take a look at the whole comprehensive plan, but specifically Chapter 7, which is the implementation. That's truly the heart of your comprehensive plan, is how are we going to fulfill the items within the plan. And some of those items are long range, some of those are policies, some of those are processes, some of those are short term, some of those items are very expensive to accomplish, and some of those items do not cost very much money at all to accomplish. We did, as you know, Mr. Tom Cole came on earlier this year as Economic Development Administrator. He has gone through the plan and identified the items he will be working on, and specifically changed many of those task holders from LCDC to Mr. Cole. So he will be reviewing those items and working to implement those items that were previously identified for LCDC to be working towards.
So that will show up, if we approve, that'll show up in there, because right now, all of the tasks show LCDC.
Yes, so we would go in and amend that, yes, correct. And then Ms. Harmon with Council on Aging has identified a couple of items that just need to be clarified and a couple of adjustments that need to be made. Those are within your report. As we talked about previously during our work session, the primary land use change that planning staff recommends is changing the future land use map designation in the floodway where those parcels are identified as 3 units per acre, amending that to some sort of rural residential development as opposed to higher density development only within the floodway. Floodway development is very costly. It's just not the best. You should leave your floodway alone as much as you possibly can. I've told you 1,000 times, and I will tell you now 1,001 times. With enough money, you can do just about anything, but that doesn't mean you should. You should protect your floodway as much as you really can, in all honesty, because it does impact your entire community pretty greatly. Additionally, one of the implementation strategies has been that the existing zoning and subdivision regulations should continue to be evaluated. We have done that. We've done several text amendments in 2022. I think I said 2020. I meant 2022. We've done several. There are more that are lined up for 2023. And additionally, I believe that staff is going to work. I'm just speaking for them now. I believe that staff is going to work on adding some graphics and such to better communicate the ideas behind some of those zoning regulations. Amy and I have talked extensively over the last several months about areas within the zoning regulations that need to be cleaned up, where there are inconsistencies, and where those need to be corrected. So I believe that will be a major task for 2023. I am certain that your staff will get it done. As we've already stated, Commissioner Tystad, the Public Works Department has spent the better part of 2022 working on a regional transportation plan, which is a major component of the comprehensive plan. It's a really big deal. In fact, it's happening a lot sooner than anyone really thought that it would happen. And you are correct that that would become an overlay that we would begin to use for things like rezoning, subdivision developments, commercial development, and such. As far as commercial and economic development goes, Mr. Cole has begun working fairly closely with planning staff regarding commercial and industrial development. In the last 6 weeks alone, we've had half a dozen meetings with potential developers throughout the county, and that is a relationship that I anticipate will continue. With that, I obviously recommend approval of those changes and will certainly be open for any questions that you may have.
I think Marcus brought up an excellent point on the 2.5 acres in this continuous asking for a rezone. I don't know how we would word it, but there's got to be a way where we could do it in the comprehensive plan. If that is what the county wants, that's what the county commissioners want, is to go to a 2.5 acre. I think we ought to be doing it. I don't think we should be getting all of these zoning requests in here month after month after month.
So, as Mr. Van Paris pointed out, and I can attest to, there is a way to do it. I don't know if a couple of you were here for the County Road 1 rezoning. That was a lot of fun. If the Board of County Commissioners directed staff to implement essentially a mass rezoning like that, staff would do that.
Yeah.
It is not pretty. You will have many landowners. I would be very, very suspicious that you are going to receive thousands of applications to rezone your property. 100 over the course of the next few years? Yes. But that being said, you do potentially have thousands of property owners who have now been put into yellow that do not want to be rezoned to 2.5 acres. And by doing a mass hard rezoning, you are forcing their hand. Again, that it certainly can be done. We have done it before. That will be at the direction of the Board of County Commissioners.
Those owners, those landowners, if they've got 10 acres or 20 acres and that's what they want, just changing that zoning to 2.5 acres minimum doesn't force them to sell or to.
No, you are absolutely correct. It does not. You are 100.
They still have to have road frontage. They still have to have all these things. They still, I mean, just by zoning your acreage to potentially 2.5 acres and making it official doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean I'm putting a neighborhood in. Doesn't mean I have to do roads. Doesn't mean anything. It just means
Got the option.
I got the option, or my great grandkids have the option 100 years later. It's all it means. You know, they would still have to do the builder with the roads and the whole 9 yards. I mean, that's all on the builder's fee. But to do that, I don't understand why it would be a problem for that to come in. And that's the part I don't understand. Why would it be a problem for y'all to have to review that? Plus their staff up.
Commissioner
Hire
Major.
6 more people.
Not majeure, force majeure. Sorry about that. Commissioners, as part of your review of the comprehensive plan, you can make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners that they consider a thorough review of the current RR5 zoned area, inasmuch as you are receiving requests for rezoning to 2.5, and they generally seem to be approved. And even though some people may, with justification, bridle at the idea of instead of one house being across the street for them, potentially 2 houses being across the street for them. And I understand that. I live in an area that's zone RR5, and I fully anticipate that the 160 acres across the street from me will not remain 160 acres forever. And I doubt if it will be 2 80-acre tracts with a house on each. However, you know, growth is inevitable, or you wouldn't need a comprehensive plan. You wouldn't need zoning. So I think if you wish to have that explored, depending on what action you take on this today, make that recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners with the explanation we're receiving a substantial number of rezoning requests for from RR5 to RR 2.5. They generally seem to be approved. They generally do not meet with any objective negative and adverse effects on the adjoining property owners. Should the board take a harder look at, you know, the broad categories of RR5 in the county? You know, look at the map that's contained in the beginning of your report, staff report, and it's a lot of RR5.
Yeah, it's outside. It's away from the municipal cities, as I would call it, or the smaller cities. I mean, it's out there, but anywhere close to residing near the cities is 2.25.
Can you pull up the zoning map on that? The comprehensive plan map, excuse me.
And I think this was going 4 or 5 years ago or something. It was about 4 or 5 years ago when all this started coming up that we need a new comprehensive plan and a rezoning plan to go to 2.5 versus 5.0.
Commissioner, I can tell you the 2.5 zoning area has substantially expanded over the years.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. And there's an objective reason for that. But I'll finish with this statement. You can get the ball rolling.
So we can make that recommendation tonight. to the
Absolutely.
county commission.
Could absolutely make that recommendation tonight.
Can you word that for us?
Yeah. I mean, you would add, you know, in addition to staff's recommendations, that the Board of County Commissioners consider directing planning staff to
entertain them.
Well, the staff will do what they're told to do, but to initiate the rezoning process. You can absolutely make that recommendation.
Recommendation.
Yes, you can't require it.
That's all
You
we
cannot
can do.
require, but you can absolutely make that recommendation. That would, if the Board of County Commissioners decided to go that route, and again, a few of them have been through this, and a couple of you have been through this. Notification is required to every single property owner that their property is being rezoned, and also to every property within 1,000 feet of said property. It is a massive undertaking.
I don't think that's what I was asking. I'm not sure I'm not talking about doing that. That wasn't what I asked.
Well, that's how you do it.
I'm not talking about sending notes out and saying, hey,
You have
guess
to.
what? Your
have to.
property is now 2.5 whether you like it or not.
How did they go from 10 acres down to 5 acres?
It might not.
That wasn't what I was
David is trying
Commissioners,
to.
if I could, first of all, if you own property in Leavenworth County, every single one of you gets a letter annually from my wife, county treasurer. Guess what's in it? Tax bill. The county regularly sends out tens of thousands of mailings to property owners annually. The county clerk regularly sends out thousands and thousands of notices to property owners regarding elections, changes in election boundaries, and because of a state law, every yearly, every property owner because of the budget. So while there's a logistical barrier, it's not insurmountable, and in fact, it's done with keystrokes. And there is a bill for mailings, but in the scheme of things, it's not consequential. So don't let that deter you from making a recommendation. If you believe it's appropriate, that the county consider possibly expanding the 2.5 or the RR 2.5 zoned area within the county. The notice would not come as some peremptory, you are now 2.5. It would come as, it is being considered that your property currently zoned RR5 could be rezoned to 2.5. There will be a hearing before the Planning Commission on this date. You can hear it you can take as much time as you want to hear that. And I'll offer you this. Your county comprehensive plan is being reviewed this evening. It's been on your agenda. People know about it. And I don't mean to say this in any negative fashion. I applaud these people for being here. But the last time you had your comprehensive plan reviewed by the final hearing, I think there were 8 people here, and you received 6 letters. Now, I'm not saying people aren't concerned, but I think it's because it was so well explained that people did not fear it to the point where they took the time to come out. But if they do, you have the obligation to hear them, and in fact, we invite them to come on in.
I don't think it was mailed out, though. Not to be argumentative, but I was one of them. Never received. The only way it was put out was in the Leavenworth Times newspaper. So to be contradictory, that's how it was announced.
Well, the 30 days.
That's why only 8 people showed up. It did not get mailed out. There was never any notices mailed out.
Yeah, the rezoning and the comprehensive plan are not the same.
Right.
The comprehensive plan was just in the newspaper.
For rezoning.
Yes, see what I'm saying? So that's the reason why when we start talking about the comprehensive plan, there would have been thousands of people coming in here for this comprehensive plan to argue the point, but it was put in the Leavenworth Times versus mailed out. Why that was, I don't know. I don't agree with it, but it was.
Comprehensive, rezoning on County Road 1, every property owner in that area, that darker purple zone, received mailed notice. And we did not receive, hundreds of people did not come in. But had they come in, they would have been heard. So if you believe it should be looked at, don't feel that there's some insurmountable barrier and it's going to be so difficult, your staff won't want to do it and the commissioners won't want to do it and you won't do it. It's inevitable. You can do it three at a time, 4 at a time, or you can do it at a larger block.
And whatever we recommend to the county commissioners on this, it's just a recommendation. It's up to them to make this decision. They got to get 3 out of the 5 to say they want to do it.
So tell me again, so I fully understand what we're recommending. I thought we were recommending to allow the office, the staff office, when these plans to come in to rezone their property could be decided here in that office. I thought that's what we're saying. I wasn't saying just take the yellow map and just slap the table and they're all done 2.5. I wasn't recommending that.
That can't be. And Commissioner, that can't be done by law. If we're going to rezone Commissioner Skeet's property, Commissioner Wolf and Commissioner Tystad will get written notice of it as well, because I'm using you as an example. So there will be written notice, there'll be opportunity to be heard, and that may or may not happen, but what I'm suggesting is if you feel it's something that should be recommended to the Board of County Commissioners, don't hesitate to do so. And this is your opportunity to do so.
If you change the comprehensive plan, we won't have very few people to do it. We did that on the comprehensive plan, very few people. If you give them notice and tell them we're rezoning their properties from 5 to 2.5 all through the county, our meeting will last probably 2 days to have everybody talk at least.
Yeah.
Because how many times do we get lots of people just for one parcel that doesn't want to change it? We could do the whole county, we'd be here 2 or 3 days.
Right.
Hearing people. I just can't imagine we got to let them all talk, and even at 3 minutes, I think we'd get
Special use permit riles people up more than anything.
Yeah, but rezoning out, especially when you're out in the county where there are bigger tracts, that gets a lot of people too. I mean, we've had a lot of people come in opposition, strong opposition to rezoning. And if we deny them, they come back to us. Or the commissioners do it without us. So.
Well,
a lot of these tracts we look at, I mean, you could zone them as 2.5, but it's not accessible. The ones to the back of the property. They only got one driveway in.
Well, they have to put a road in.
But maybe later they'll get a helicopter or a small plane.
Or a large loan from the bank to get roads built in.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Anyway. Exactly right. It doesn't mean that it all has to go to 2.5.
Well, I live on 20 acres. It's a long, narrow 20 acres. There's no way anything could happen behind me, except for cattle.
Well,
you'd be surprised.
So I'm not sure what we're recommending. I mean, I wasn't trying to make it.
And I'm not saying, it's your policy decision, but if you wish to exercise that option, it is available.
I was just trying to be in support of the plan, and if we have the landowners coming in saying, I want to convert my land, I want to go ahead and make it 2.5 in support of the plan, I don't know why they're coming in front of us if we could make it an easier route than come in front of us. That's what I was trying to do.
The rules and regulations say you have to.
Yeah, I know that. I'm just saying if that was my recommendation, to make it, if it meets the plan and it meets, then.
And I don't want to make it seem like I'm telling you not to do this because it might be cumbersome. That's not what I'm trying to do at all. But I do think you should be informed. I think that's important that you're informed on the process.
Yeah.
And that is the process.
Anything else of staff before we move on? Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against, sign them up on recognition. We'll give you name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open, and you remember you are limited to 3 minutes per person. We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor. Why don't we do in favor or opposition?
Absolutely.
Really just a comment on that. So just anybody who wants to talk either way.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am a little bit in favor, but also a little bit opposed.
Can you state your name first?
Sure. Sherry Grogan, 16635 Leavenworth Road, and I'm the president of Rural Leavenworth, Inc. And how many of you have actually looked at the Baser comp plan that was just approved on December 8th?
I have it on my computer, but I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
Okay. So the changes that have been outlined in the admin packet, I'm okay with those changes. But we're missing an opportunity as the Rural Leavenworth, Inc. looked at the Baser comp plan, and in there is a future land use map that includes unincorporated areas of the county. So it includes their planning boundary. Basically, they don't call it the urban growth area, but it is reflective of the urban growth area. So it's about 3 miles outside of city limits. And when I compare the land use map of the county, the future land use map, with the future land use map in the Baser plan, there are some pretty big differences. And that's really my concern, is there needs to be some coordination and negotiation with what those land use maps show, because without that, it gives the appearance that the county and the city, at least Basehor City, are not, they don't have the same, you don't have the same vision of where we're going within the county. And some of the areas I'm going to highlight are, it would be on the western edge of 2440, kind of out towards Tonganoxie, but still within that 3-mile radius outside of Basehor City. 155th Street north of Basehor, and then 158th south of Basehor. And two of the items that you just approved are within that planning area. The first one was on the consent agenda, and in the Basehor future land use map, that shows a low density of 1 to 5 units per acre. The second one that you approved was the Kansas Red Tail Ridge number 2. Basehor's future land use map shows that as a medium density, 5 to 12 units per acres. So at some point, it's very important that our planning organizations sit down, maybe with the city. I don't know who needs to be part of that, but you guys are caught in the middle. Because if you don't know what's in this city's future land use maps, you're approving things and it doesn't really look good and benefit the county.
Jerry, I can ask you a question. You got your 3 minutes.
Okay, sure. And I did bring my comments, written comments that were provided during Basehor's public hearing.
Sure.
So I only have 2 copies, but I think Crystal has a copy as well already. But
Okay,
maybe you guys
them
can
to
make
us.
copies
Yeah.
of those.
You can email them to us, maybe. Did you realize on that first one, you talk about the plat, the letter from the Planning Commission from Basehor?
I did see that.
Okay.
Mhm.
So they're saying they don't have any interest in it.
No, what they said, they
Your comprehensive plan
declined,
does.
they declined to make comments, and they referred you to their comprehensive plan. And they basically said there is no interlocal agreement. If we had land use maps that were aligned, it would reduce the need for an interlocal agreement. Because you'd be approving things that matched their plan.
Well, I hope we can get all the cities together.
It's really important.
Yeah. We've been trying to do that for a long time and haven't been able to accomplish it yet. But hopefully there's hope,
Yeah.
at least at Basehor.
It's a difficult task, but it needs to be done because you guys are caught in the middle. And like the I-70 piece, prime land,
Right.
right? Highway land.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Dave Otter, 23150 147th Street, Leavenworth. Got some concerns. So if you guys recommend approval and the Board of County Commissioners approves this plan, when is the next relook for the comprehensive plan?
Yearly.
Yearly? Okay, so a couple concerns I have. Number one, there's not a single thing addressed in there about commercial development. The largest economic generator in the state of Kansas history has recently broken ground directly across the border from Leavenworth County, and we are not addressing any of that in the comprehensive plan. We're not looking at any mixed use. We're not looking at any medium density housing to provide housing for workers that are going to be able to afford to live there so they can work across the county border. When I looked at the economic development notes that came back, not a single note on there involved planning or zoning. They were all about processes, they were about economic development, developers, but not a single thing made any recommendation on transportation, not a single recommendation on the rezoning of any type of medium density, residential or commercial down along I-70. I didn't see where it was staffed through any of the organizations in Leavenworth County. So to me, the comprehensive plan review by the county should be staffed through every city. It should be staffed through LCDC. Okay, and for those of you who don't know, and I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards, LCDC was kind of given a task that was not within their parameters previously, so I'm happy to see Tom doing it, but I don't see any of his recommendations or notes coming back to this involved anything that involved this planning board right here. So I do have concerns about that. And I'm not sure who is the stakeholder, or the person that brings the stakeholders together on planning and zoning for the county to make sure that what she's talking about doesn't occur. So from your position, I'm curious, who is that person at the county? So I've worked a lot of staffs. I'm a business owner. There's always one person in charge. When there's not someone in charge, you get this. You get chaos. You get confusion. You get disorder, where you guys are passing something because you're passing it based on the information that you currently have, but the information you have is different than what other people have, right? And what does that lead to? It leads to chaos. It leads to confusion. And we're dealing with the future of the county here. So if we don't get a handle on this now, the developers are going to come in, they're going to kick the county's ass. Because they've got lawyers, they're going to beat us. So we've got to start zoning appropriately to make sure, number one, we can get the developers here, and number two, so we can control the growth so that we can make that balance that we all want of a rural Leavenworth County, while also balancing it with commercial growth so we don't have to pay out the rear end on taxes for the rest of our lives. Okay? But I do have concerns that no one in the county is bringing the stakeholders together to make sure that all issues, concerns are being addressed. I'm one of those people she's probably concerned about. I live right between Lansing and Basehor. It's a land grab out in the county right now, right? Everybody's looking at what's the last taxable land that they can grab. Okay? If you're not talking to the cities about what the plan is, the cities are going to take care of it for you.
Thank you, sir.
Last one left, so I figured I'd come up and say hi again. Joe Herring, 16630 Gilman Road. Do agree with the commercial. I think we should be looking harder with Panasonic coming in. We should have a plan to welcome more business in here and in the right location with the right infrastructure and have that in place. Talked earlier about traffic infrastructure. Unfortunately, when we did the comp plan, our commissioners voted not to have a traffic study done at the time or a wastewater study, which those two probably should have went first before we did the comp plan, but deal with what we get with. As they brought up about rezoning the county towards the comp plan, I know the great opposition that it meets at many levels and personal feelings on that. But, I think it needs to be discussed because there's a lot of time we spend up here. I mean, I'm up here a lot in front of you for rezoning cases, and that's what I do. That's, part of my job. But there are ways to opt out of it. And that's been discussed, that if you did go in and say you wanted to do like a couple townships at a time, provide clients or property owners with a letter. If you want to opt out of that rezone, you don't want yours rezoned, sign an affidavit. Give it to the county and say, we don't want to be part of it. We're not getting rezoned. Give them the right to choose whether you want to be rezoned or right. Don't let the people next door tell you, hey, you can't get rezoned. Let the property owner have that right and have that say if they want to get reduced down to 2.5 acres or 3 units an acre or what that is. So just my thought in the process. I do support the overall look at doing sections versus individuals coming in on a regular basis. So, thank you.
So I was going to ask this when we were talking about one of the properties that I asked about the 10 acres. You got a 10-acre neighborhood, a neighborhood with 10 acres, right? Is there anything referenced like grandfather clause or something that could be written in that protects all those neighbors and all those landowners in the neighborhoods with 10 acres to protect just that?
Before you were here, we had some of the rezone, when this first rezoning came out, people on 5-acre tracts, and they lived on a corner. They were in the subdivision, but they wanted to split their properties to 2.5-acre tracts. Subdivision, all was 5-acre tracts. We had a lot of opposition, but it met our comprehensive plan. I think we did all of them, didn't we, that we had like that? Wasn't that many, but it had to be on the corner to where they had the road frontage to do it. So, but did we do something in our regulations that, I think we did, didn't we? They couldn't do that if it was a platted subdivision?
So one of the, and actually it's really good that you brought that up, Commissioner, because this has been talked about and it should be added to this report. The commissioners, just a second, I'm making a note. So at least a couple of the commissioners and the rest seem to have have supported this as well, that when a property is intended to be rezoned in an existing subdivision that's already been developed at, say, our R5 densities. So say we have Steve Rosenthal acres, there's 10 lots in it, all 10 of those lots are 5-acre lots. But then lot owner 2 comes in and says, well, I want to rezone my property because the comprehensive plan calls for this to be 2.5 acres, and I'd like to rezone it to 2.5 acres. The direction that the board has given staff is to not support that because there is an existing expectation if you bought property within a platted subdivision that those lots would remain at the
That's
densities
what I'm
that they were
asking.
platted at.
Now, what about grandfathered? What about these landowners that have had their 5-acre, 10-acre lots that are quote-unquote neighborhood, but may not be the neighborhood, but they're pretty, they're all lined up and they're dressed right dress, and that's how they bought, thinking that they would forever and they wouldn't have to worry about the neighbor next door breaking his down to 5s and 5s and 2.5s, whatever. I mean, is there some type of grandfather clause that would protect the adjacent neighbors?
Again, well, part of that is this process, right? But that's one of the things that staff looks at when we're looking at the character of the neighborhood. And while it may not necessarily be platted per se, if all of the lots, say along a stretch of roadway had already been developed at 5 or 10 acres, and they were developed at a time when you could just write legal descriptions and split them off that way. However, that's how the neighborhood has been developed. Then staff would certainly call that out, and again, per the direction of the board, would maybe not be supportive of the rezoning because of the neighborhood. We had a couple of those real early on in the year, and then we haven't had any for a while. So I'm really glad this conversation came up because that's definitely something we were recommended to do. So we will want to, I would highly recommend that if you all decide to make a motion, if you're not tabling this, I'm not saying you should, but that you include adding that language to the amendments to the comprehensive plan, that existing subdivisions and neighborhoods would, how would we word that? We'll figure it out, but you know what I'm talking about.
Well, Chairman, I'm making that recommendation that we do make that amendment to this plan to do just that.
A lot of the 10-acre tracts, though, they're not in a platted subdivision.
No, but
so we have to remember that. It's just platted subdivisions they're talking about.
But if we're talking about whether it's a homeowners association or whether it's neighborhood, you got a builder who plots out along this nice road or whatever, and he does 10-acre lots throughout, and he sells all these homes 10-acre lots, and all these people in there have bought. Like we saw today, we had someone come and talk about, hey, look, we all bought these 10-acre lots. Now we're going to start slicing. I'm going to have, metal building barnuminiums and so forth. There should be something that's grandfathered in that would protect against that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I don't disagree with you. We are at, is there any different additional information to be presented, and that's where we're at. So is there any more additional information? No.
No, there's not. Sorry, I shook my head.
Okay, the public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any questions or comments, commissioners?
I'd like to make a comment. Okay. Knowing that we are losing our distinguished individual here who has been so wonderful in guiding us. And
oh, that's very nice of you and very unnecessary, Commissioner Nutstruck.
I might comment, obviously you are under no obligation, but I highly suggest that you not be a stranger to these parts when you make your transition to Basehor, in part because of the comments that were made.
I can assure you that many conversations have been had regarding just such a subject. So,
thank you.
How you guys feel about passing this? Feel comfortable? Not comfortable?
We have the option to table it, correct?
You have an option to table it. I agree that transportation plan is very necessary for this. I mean, our roads are, let's face it, they're poor. And we're putting more and more houses, more and more cars on roads that aren't really, are subpar. And I said that when we had that comprehensive plan before, and I'm still saying it.
I mean, as you look at it, we're getting ready to pack the south, even south of Baser and Tonganoxie. I mean, we're because of the Panasonic thing. We should probably be looking at that a lot harder.
Well, you just had like 40 acres of concrete and hundreds of 18-wheeler trailers and trucks just built at the corner of 70 and 7, and we don't have housing to accommodate, nor do we have schools that can accommodate.
Wait till that battery factory opens up in DeSoto.
And commercial is very much needed, but commercial has not been welcomed in Edwards County, let's face it.
Well, we better start welcoming it.
Yeah, I know.
People can't afford to pay the real estate taxes we're paying. But
I
we
agree.
Have no,
And that's what's going to build the roads.
Right.
Sales tax and everything's going to build the roads. Taxes on houses don't build roads.
I was just
I
going to
was really
say,
glad to see
retain roads.
Crystal going to Baser because I think we're going to get a lot of good things happening.
Very kind of you. Very kind
Got
of you.
Amy and Crystal working for the county. We're all right.
so
How long before the road plan?
I'm not sure. I haven't been just super involved in that. I know that they've had their public hearings. I know that there's been a draft of it. I would say certainly by, I want to say mid to late spring at the latest. But, I mean, I guess I can say whatever I want, huh? You can't really hold me accountable, can you?
Yeah.
I think that is the anticipated completion date, though, in all seriousness.
Question for my clarification. The new kid. This is down here as a consideration. Is this the only time this will be presented to us? Or is there something else that follows?
Well, assuming you don't table it, this would be the only time. This is the public hearing. Again, if you feel this needs to be tabled because you would like to give it additional consideration, you certainly can. You will see it will come back around to you fall of next year. That's the kind of the anticipated. And certainly throughout the year, if you all see something, major that you think needs to be changed, you can say, hey, staff, let's go look at this and let's do it. There's no requirement that says you can only review it once a year. There's a requirement that says you must review it once a year.
so we can make amendments all through the year.
You can. Yeah, you certainly can.
When is this supposed to be signed? The review.
So we had the 2022 review. I think we got all wrapped up in March or April it was March of this year. So we were trying to kind of get ahead of it. Ideally, it gets done towards the end of each year, but you want it to be all wrapped up by March anyhow, so that you aren't extending past that year.
Well, if we table it, we have to table it to a time, right?
Yeah, you would need to table it to a date certain.
Could that date be when the transportation plan is completed?
Needs to be a date certain.
Date
Mr.
certain?
Chairman, yes. Not a contingent date. You would need to pick a date on the calendar to table it to.
Okay, well, that's what I was asking. I didn't.
And
I'd say table till we get
the transportation plan it's a document that's going to live alongside the comprehensive plan. And I'm not saying that it won't, that there won't be changes that should occur within the comprehensive plan. But that is, that's a task that the Public Works Department has had to be completed as part of the whole comprehensive plan implementation. And that is happening.
Can you send questions back to the staff for further clarification?
Well, what's your thoughts, guys? I'm ready for a motion. Are you satisfied if you could say a motion to approve? Satisfied we had enough information?
We make the motion.
You've read it well enough?
We make a motion to approve now. We still come back next month or the month after and make a recommendation to the county commissioners that that we're recommending they do a study to look into the 2.5 acre rezone.
You could. That would be. I would say that would really be separate from the comprehensive plan. That would be something that you all would essentially be directing your staff to request the Board of County Commissioners to consider. I would imagine that there would probably be a work session that would, again, you can make that part of your recommendation of the comprehensive plan. You can do that. And the Board of County Commissioners can take it up and say, yes, we think that's an excellent idea. How do we go about it? Let's move in that direction. Or they can say, that's not something we really wish to do right now, so we're going to remove that from this consideration. But if you chose to make that recommendation at a later date, you would be directing your staff essentially to coordinate with the Board of County Commissioners to communicate your desire as a planning commission to have that looked into. It wouldn't have to be part of the comprehensive plan review, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So if we tabled this, that would give us at least 30 days to have requests for further information, requests for more information based on some of these things that we've identified that may or may not be addressed in here, right? Then we'd come back and we'd table it, discuss it, and then that would allow the county commissioners time to answer those RFIs to further give clarification.
Might recommend that we even go further to say 60 days, considering we have holiday periods that are coming up here.
I don't know what you're talking about. We all work through the holidays.
I understand that there.
Yeah.
In order to move it along is what I'm saying. I mean,
I think
we're
we
talking
need work sessions, actually.
Yeah,
Honestly,
that's a work session.
I think we need work sessions
and we come into
with
it
or
with
without
our,
the county commissioners, and I think it'd be better with the county commissioners.
That's an excellent idea.
That's a great idea.
But and to throw out some of these ideas, I mean, we're concerned about 2.5 acres. We're concerned about commercial. We're concerned about roads.
Right.
Sewer districts.
Water,
we
sewer,
talked years
road.
ago about the sewer district, the county sewer district in the southern part of the area. I never thought that would come about, and I don't think it will, but it would be great if it did, but it would be pretty expensive, I'm sure, to get that going, but you've got that good basin there for it, and it could be something, but I think those are things that we really need to explore more than just pass something.
Yeah. Yep.
That's my thought on it, but
if we table this today, do you set up or try to set up a work session between us and the county commissioners?
Yeah, so we would do that. I would recommend to Commissioner Gottschalk's point that you would want to, if you're wishing to table, if you're desiring to table this, that this be tabled to the February meeting. I don't know what that date is off the top.
The 8th.
February 8th. David has the calendar memorized. That's good. And yes, in that time period, we could coordinate a work session with the Board of County Commissioners. I'm certain.
I like that idea. I think that's a good idea.
Okay. You need a motion?
A motion to table it, can it also include work sessions with the county commissioners?
You could make a motion that you are tabling it with the direction of staff coordinating a work session to address the items that you've just brought up.
Okay.
So moved.
Is that going to be good enough?
Now, I make a motion that we table the consideration until February 8th meeting, and that we ask the planning staff to facilitate a joint meeting with the Board of County Commissioners. A work session prior to the February 8th session.
What about Public Works?
Sorry, say it again.
For the transportation plan.
For the public works also?
Yes, Public Works could be a part of that work session.
Okay. Commissioners, and Public Works.
Let me amend then to add Public Works as well as the Board of County Commissioners.
Do we have to list the things that we really are concerned about, or is it good enough that we voiced them here?
So we have potential rezoning of the county. That's one thing you'd like to talk about.
Yeah. 2.5 and commercial. And industrial, for that matter.
You also had mentioned sewer districts, extension of
Districts, but I don't.
a sewer plan, maybe.
Yeah. I think that'll go over fast. So we won't.
Yeah.
Road improvement. And also adding the
Transportation, of course.
Transportation.
Again, the transportation plan, like that's getting wrapped up.
Yeah, well, that's why we probably can have it by February, hopefully.
Will we see a preliminary of that or no?
No, I mean, we could. Well, they could bring it to you.
It'd be
That's certainly
public, wouldn't it? When it's
You're not
done?
going to bring it?
And
Yeah.
Before our meetings, we could talk about it.
And as part of the work session, we should address the joint work session with the board, address the issue of overlaying this with the city and with the city planning, city land use.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea.
How about having some of the cities come to the?
I don't
Mr.
think
Chairman?
I don't think.
Well,
the
you can at
board
least
would-
invite them.
Could I offer a thought? The United Nations has 180 plus members, and they accomplish so much. Perhaps set your sights a little lower.
Okay.
Yeah, I would not bring in. I wouldn't bring in the cities yet. I mean, but
the way he thinks.
but
Cities,
set
school
the
boards.
conditions with the board that says in the future, we should look at these things or at least invite them in to talk about these things.
I second the motion.
Yeah, we had a second already.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. You got the motion down, Pat?
I think we've got our marching orders.
Okay, all righty. Any further discussion? On having a roll call vote, Marcus Major,
Yes.
Alan Stork,
Yes.
William Gutchuk,
Yes.
Jeff Spink,
Yes.
Doug Tysted,
Yes.
Ski,
Yes.
Will Smith. Yes. Motion carries 7-0 to table. Okay, planning and zoning is adjourned. We need 7 people for we have 1 too many.
I'll volunteer to leave.
Okay.
That was quick.
Now that's how you volunteer.
I watched it the other day. He was quick.
Don't raise your hand.
Why ain't he leaving? He volunteered. He was just sitting. I would have left.
I wanted to listen. That was on my street, so I got off.
Board of Zoning Appeals is now,
We have about a 5-minute break.
you want to make, okay, we'll wait 5 minutes. Forget what I said.
Thank you very much. You too. Did you say 5 minutes?
Yeah.
5 minutes.
You're taking a break?
Taking a break for
Bless
5
you.
minutes.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay.
We're blessed.
Brought too many drinks with it.
Oh, Joe, you got an angel just blessed you.
Excuse me?
Board of Zoning Appeals matter?
Yeah.
Take that up.
Okay.
Oh, it's a long meeting, huh?
Yeah. We haven't had one this long. I knew it would be.
Say what? Did you go to the company?
People asked me, when do you think it'll be over? I said between 8 and 9. Well, I'm going to be damn close.
Still getting into this whole thing.
I have. Yeah. I mean, I could talk all day on the comprehensive plan, but
Oh, yeah.
what difference is that? You know what I mean?
That's
I just don't understand why the county. Remember when they did
Lansing
that
Base,
study for
Tommy.
County Road 1?
Yeah.
And I was on that committee that had open hearing because my parents own a lot of farmland. And we did that whole thing, and the county paid for those people to come in, and the city could put dots what they wanted. And then the county commissioner's like, that's great, we're going to do that. Like completely different than what everybody kind of said, hey, this looks great. And I'm like, I was like, why did you spend all that money and time and get everybody involved to just go a different direction? So, yeah, I get people get angry. I get this.
No, and,
well, you know, in that one tonight,
the head over hearings and looked at it, we approved the map.
And they're now in a.
They brought it to the county commissioners, and they approved one that was quite a bit different.
Yeah,
so that was
zone
back to us.
For the planning zone.
And
you're south of 2440, close to
that's not what we approved.
Right.
That's
right.
You know, so then they keep saying, well, we need to go
that was the main thing with the corridor
and make changes.
Coming down south of 2440 all the way at Lawrence.
Right. We made some changes.
They want to make that like a major.
They went in there. No, I think it's only been a year. We closed it the way it is.
A lot of that stuff up right next to the road.
So it didn't matter.
Yeah. Next use.
You could have like
said they needed to change it.
Right. And that's what they're building down there.
The subdivisions right line. That's what they want. Like what Evans Road is. That's what they're
Right.
wanting is subdivisions.
Right.
Yeah, so the county's not going to get any more money to finish their dustless initiative, is that right? Like the money.
It's like 40 years. I heard this morning.
It's like, well,
talking about not having enough money this year.
The next is all about
because they had their 1, 2, 3 phase, and we got through one and half of 2, and then it just kind of stopped.
It's a guideline. Yeah.
With this
Kind of like a budget.
property appraisals.
Yeah.
Make a plan that things change all the time.
Public Works said a long time ago that
But
they said
as we
taxes
move
they
towards
get
it,
from a house,
like the
only
one
pays
tonight,
the things that are
250
front of the
acres,
house.
as we move towards it,
But of course.
with actual zoning.
Improve any road
There's lots of.
Well, the plan says we can't.
Right. And they're pushing, the board has said, we want to push.
There's a housing
Complaint.
Whitefish Montana.
Right.
I would maybe like.
I moved out here.
should address.
The laundromat?
I moved out here. and started getting to get the
Yeah, we need to do this.
Report could be
Like the
this
past
application does not object
funding, pushing funding out next.
statutory
Hey, Steve, I think that goes back.
permanent
Only 12.
I'm back, let's go.
Board of Zoning Appeals is now. No, have a roll call.
You read that down, David?
Division Bailey, Alan Stork.
Here.
William Gutchalk.
Here.
Jeff Spink.
Here.
Doug Tysted.
Here.
Steve Skeet.
Here.
Wolf Smith. And I'm present. Leavenworth County Board of Zoning Appeals would now consider case number DB 22-151, variance request for Article 41, Section 6 of the Zoning and Subdivision Regulations is outlined in the posted agenda. Does require public hearing. Public comment is listed to 3 minutes per person. Staff report.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, this is case number DEP 22-151. This is a variance request for a second driveway. Article 41 clearly states that parcels with less than 3 acres, are entitled to a single driveway. This parcel is 1.3 acres, located at 18726 153rd Street. The regulations are quite clear that second driveways are not permitted. You have 5 criteria for a variance in which you are supposed to be able to meet in order for a variance to be granted. This request does not meet any of those requirements. We can go through them individually. It is not a unique condition. This property is located within a subdivision where all of the other parcels are approximately 1.5 acres. The strict application of the provisions will which the variance is requested will constitute unnecessary hardship. This is not an unnecessary hardship. The applicant wishes to build a garage and would like a separate entrance to his garage. Not having that second entrance is not a hardship. It's in direct opposition to the spirit of the zoning regulations. Staff doesn't make recommendations on variance requests, as you well know. However, this one just clearly does not meet any of the requirements. Mr. Grip was not able to remain here for the meeting. He has asked Mr. Herring to represent his case. And I'll answer any questions that you may have. And Mr. Herring, I suppose, will also.
And that's a pretty busy area, too.
Say it again?
That's a pretty busy area.
Yeah.
Any questions, staff? Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition, we give your name and address, time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Joe Herring Surveying. Mr. Grip did have to leave. His wife has dementia, and he had to go. I offered to represent him on his case, and he gave me a little brief history before he left and left his letter with me on his reasoning. So I'll briefly read through that, and he is asking to build a new garage at this address and needs to put in a new driveway to get to the garage. To use the existing driveway to get back there and build his garage, he would have to remove a shed and replace lateral lines, which were all placed in without. He did not put the house in that location. He did not put the lateral field in. He did not put the shed there. That's how the person who built the house, so that's how it was placed. And on top of that, the driveway to the north wasn't even placed on his property. That they acquired a little more ground, so they had a portion of the driveway and an access, but it's not. You can zoom in on his property, and it shows that it's on the north side of the property line, but that is his access. So he was asking for a variance to the 1.3 or the 3 acre rule, as Crystal said here, to have an additional garage built on the south side of the property with a dedicated entrance to that garage. And that's the information I have.
Okay. I don't think you probably wanted to ask any more questions about it, if you really don't know anything more about it than what you read, do you?
That is it. That is, I do know that he did say that he did not build the house. He is not the original owner. He did not put the original driveway in. He did not cause the situation, but he does want to. He is causing the variance because he wants to have that additional garage and taxable. He did put in here another taxable structure on his property.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor or opposition to this request? Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Any questions or comments, commissioners, or I will entertain a motion.
Just a general question. Looking at the property, are we to assume that there is an existing garage on the north side of the house that existing driveway leads up to?
No, that driveway on the north side of the house, I do not believe that there is a garage there. That's the driveway to his home.
Thank you.
And that driveway is not on his property? He had to get an easement for it?
Yeah, it's not on his property. They purchased a sliver of land. That's a whole other issue. But no, that driveway's well, I shouldn't say it's not on his property. It is on his property. They purchased a sliver of land from that lot to the north.
Part of 54 is what the driveway says. It's been by it.
Yeah, like it's just a dark picture. It's kind of hard to see.
Yes, it is. Yeah, by taking a look at the other photograph or satellite image that was provided with the actual deck that was given to us, There's even a point where it even looks like that driveway is still not included completely into it. It just is that they've got a sliver of something.
Yeah, the GIS map it's good. It's not perfect. I don't know exactly where that driveway lies. They're wanting to add a second driveway that's the...
Does that driveway only serves the house at 18726, is
To
that
my
correct?
knowledge, yes. Yes.
Any other questions or comments, or I'll entertain a motion?
The new driveway will kind of line up with, almost with Amber Road, huh?
Looks like it's going north of it.
I'm not certain where he was proposing to put the second
We
driveway.
got a sketch here that kind of shows it, Amber Road.
That,
Could very well be.
yeah, I guess he did. Yeah, he did kind of. Well, no, it wouldn't line up. No, it would not. It would be offset.
It would not line up with Amber Road?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't look like it. And again, our regulation it's very clear. Parcels less than 3 acres are only entitled to one building permit, to only one entrance. And the state requirements for granting variance are also very clear. And this request does not meet any of them.
But technically, that driveway is not on his property.
No, it is on his
No, it is
property
on
because
his
he bought
property.
it.
The lot lines, he purchased that.
Well, if you look, but it still cuts right.
Again, our GIS map is not perfect. To know exactly where it's at, you would have to have it surveyed. He has a driveway on his property.
There's about a 5-foot variance on those lines.
This is in the county.
Yeah, it's in the county. Yeah, the city of Baser is obviously literally right next to
She
it.
said
But
the property
How much
was
did you get from the city of Baker?
actually over here.
we didn't send it to the city of Baser.
It's just south of Basin.
Mr. Chairman.
Can we recognize Mr. Herring with his
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, sure. I did. Oh, you had a question?
Yes, back to the question of is the driveway on his property? Mr. Grip said that he purchased a portion of ground to get a portion of that driveway on his property. I do not believe it lies entirely on his property or solely his use, as that driveway probably does serve Lot 54, which is in the city of Baser. Granted, there's no structure there, but they could access their property through that. The fact that that's in the city, portion of that driveway is in the city, not in the county, not all on the county property. He doesn't have an entire driveway on his property.
He still has a driveway.
He has
a driveway on his property.
It's not solely his.
Doesn't matter. He has a driveway.
If somebody built
It's not
on that
solely
lot, they would
in
use that
Leavenworth
driveway.
County. It is partially in the city of Baser.
Joe, I'm
So I'm just
impressed.
pointing out-
I'm impressed with you right now.
But now, observations that could lead to a reason for a variance, because if this was solely in the county and the driver was solely on his property, then I could see a situation where, wow, we can't even talk about this.
Well, I think then they have to go to the city of Baser. Why don't they go to that next month?
That's your first assignment.
Just for clarification,
January, whatever.
if someone built on lot 54, would that driveway be the only access point, or would they build a new driveway?
They're in the city of Baser, so
Oh,
that they would
that's
have
why you're
that
saying
option.
it would be
Right,
the
it's
city.
not our
Okay.
jurisdiction.
Now, is that driveway too close to the out of the road? Because remember, we had that discussion before.
Across the street
About
doesn't matter.
driving across the street. doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
they changed the regulations.
Or if you
so-
granted the variance and told them to line it up with the Amber Road, because Public Works likes it when it
The
lines up.
request does not meet the requirements for a variance.
You know, we spent a lot of time here one night discussing the lineup of driveways.
We did.
I would
We
question,
did.
does it
And those
need a
are for
variance?
driveways that meet county regulations.
Does it need a
This
variance?
one doesn't.
We need to go on.
I don't know.
So this was turned down before, correct?
That was impressive.
No?
It's
Oh.
the first time he asked for a second driveway.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Do I have a motion? All right, I make a motion that we deny the variance request for case number DEB 22-151, variance request from Article 41, Section 6 of the zoning and subdivision regulation. It's outlined in the agenda, and it's a motion to deny.
I'll second that.
Okay. I made the motion, and Wolf seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we have a roll call vote. Alan Stork.
Yes.
William Gutshaw.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Tyston. And by the way, we are the final decision on that. I hope you all know that. So, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Steve Skeet.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Motion to deny carries 7-0. Anything else?
I move we adjourn.
It's been a pleasure, Commissioners. Thank you.
Wish you weren't leaving.
So does this mean the city?
At least you'll be in the area.
Yeah, they just started responding.
I don't know, we'll see.
Gentlemen, want to wish each of you a Merry Christmas.